Hello, second grade. It's so good to see you. The weather's getting warmer. You see my shirts are changing a little bit. Boy, does it feel good to be outside. Are you enjoying being outside too? Well, as we near the end of the school year in second grade, remember there's lots more things we need to learn before we're ready for third grade. Even though it's springtime, we still have some second grade left to go. And our new topic is something we've never learned about before. Now, I bet you have seen something similar before, but we haven't dove into it yet this year. Let's take a peek at our learning target and then we'll dive right in. I can build an array and represent it with an equation. Oh boy, what in the world does that mean? Help me out, second grade. What does that word build mean? Yeah, when we build my kids love Legos. So when we build Legos, we are putting things together, aren't we? So we're going to be building and putting things together today. An array. Ooh, that's a new word, and I'm going to define it right here for us. So when I say define, it means I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to give you the definition or the meaning of that word array. An array is a set of objects, and sometimes it's pictures. Sometimes it is X's and O's. Can be all sorts of different things. But it's a set of objects that's arranged, and arranged just means organized, in, and this is where I need you to listen carefully, in equal, and what does that word equal mean? The same as, equal rows and columns. Yes, equal rows and columns. Now you might say, rows, columns, what are you talking about, Mrs. Baker? And I will tell you, a row is what's going across, okay? A row of objects are the set of objects that are going this way. If I have a row of students in my classroom on my carpet, actually I have 3 rows of students in my classroom on my carpet. I have a row in the front, a row in the middle, and a row in the back. Those are my rows, the ones that go across, okay? Now, the column are the group of objects that are going down, okay, or up. They call that vertical. Ever say vertical? Ooh, vertical means going up and down. That's that vertical. This is called horizontal. Horizontal are your rows. Vertical are your columns. When I think of columns, I think of, in fact, we've got columns in the front of our school building, don't we? We have those columns that hold up that big roof at the top at the front. And those columns are going up and down, okay? Those columns hold things up. In our case, our columns are just the group of objects that are going up and down, okay? That's how they're arranged in either columns or rows. But remember, I said that an array is a group of objects that are arranged or organized in equal rows and columns. That means that our rows all have to be the same and our columns have to be the same. Now, a row and a column might not be, okay? But all the rows have to be the same length. All of our columns have to have the same number in them as well. That's really important for us to hold on to in our noggins while we're doing this work together this week. I can build an array. It means I'm going to put together a group of objects organized in equal rows and columns. But then we get to represent those arrays that we build with an equation. And represent just means to show it another way, right? And this time we're going to represent it or show it with an equation, okay? An equation is when we are putting numbers together. We also might call it a number sentence. And in this case, most likely we're going to be adding more than 2 addends together to represent our arrays. Now, for this activity, you're going to need a few things, okay? Now, I hope if you didn't get these from your teacher, these little inch tiles that we've been using off and on for quite a while now, then you have a piece of paper that you've maybe been able to cut up. I'll make sure that your teachers have that available to send to you again as well if you don't have that. So before you start this lesson, you need to have these with you or the paper version. So pause me and go get them so that you are ready for learning today. And while you're waiting for me, you're going to get 8 of these inch tiles out. Okay? You'll make sure you double check. 2, 4, 6, 8. Well, that was lucky. I just happened to get it right off the bat. Alrighty, hopefully our friends are coming back and we are thinking about this array. You have your tiles with you. You should have 8. They can be any color, but they are all our inch tiles or our papers that are our inch tile size. Alrighty, friends, this is where it's gonna get fun. Our first problem, you have 8 tiles. I want you to arrange them in any way you want. Now remember, when we're doing our tiles, you want to arrange them in rows and columns. Maybe you only have 1 row. Maybe you have 2 rows or 3 or 4. Think about how you can arrange these tiles. Go ahead, you may begin. I'm going to give you some think time. Be listening for my questions that I'm asking my friends here, so you can be thinking about those same questions while you're working. Ooh, how many rows do you have? So if you have 2 rows, how many tiles are in each row? And so how many columns, if these are rows, how many columns do you have? Remember, those columns are going up and down. Right, 1, 2, keep counting those. You only have 1 row. How many tiles do you have in that 1 row? Don't forget to use all your tiles. You don't want to leave any out. We're going to use all 8. How many do you have? How many tiles do you have in that 1 row? You do. So how many columns is that? 1, 2, 3. Keep going. Let's see what you find. Ooh, yours looks really similar to one that I saw, but my other friend had 2 rows. You have 2 columns. How many rows do you have? Oh my goodness. Friends, come together. If you are not done, you may pause me and you may resume me when you are ready. But we've got some friends that are ready for learning here and to share their arrays. Let's go ahead. I'm not going to tape these up because I will run out of tape, but I will draw them as you tell me about them. Start us off. How did you arrange your tiles? I'm going to draw them in squares. You just had 1 row, and how many tiles did you have in that 1 row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when you only had 1 row, you had 8 in that row, right? So 1 row of 8. Very good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did they use all their tiles? They most certainly did. So if this is a row, how many columns did you have? Remember, our columns are how many are going this way, not this way. Kind of a trick question with this one. It's kind of hard to see. Thumbs up any times when you think you know. Aha. How many columns does my friend have? They have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 columns. And how many are in each column? There's only one in each column, isn't there? There's only one here, one here, one here, one here, and we can keep going until we get to 8. Now, we're going to keep going, and then we'll go back and represent with an equation after we've shared all of our ways. Tell me, I have friends that share 2 different ways, but they're very similar. Tell us, I should say, how many rows did you have? You had 2 rows, okay? So row 1 and row 2. And how many did you have in each row? Okay, so you said 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 5, 6, 7, 8. So how many did you have in each row? You said you had 2 rows of, and there were only 4 in each row. But there were 2 rows of 4. Very good. How many columns did my friend have? Remember, our rows are going across. We know that they have 2 rows of 4, but how many columns do they have? Yes, column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. 4 columns of what? There's 2 in each column this time. Interesting. We had another way. Do you want to share yours? All right, go ahead. Let us hear it. You had 4 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so then you made another column, or you added another one to each row, and you have 2 in each row. So you had 4 rows of 2, but how many columns did they have? 1, 2. 2 columns of 4, right? Because they have 1, 2, 3, 4 in each column. Now, what do we notice about these different ways of showing our thinking? What do we notice about these 3 ways of representing these 8 tiles? They all have 8. They're all similar in that way, aren't they? What else do you notice? So you see 2, 4 and 4 here, and you see 4 and 4 here, but they don't look the exact same, do they? So these 2 are very similar, aren't they? What equations would you write with this? I know when I was talking to my friend over here, they said, well, I know that, what did you say? You know that 4 plus 4 equals 8. Where is the 4 and the 4 in your array? 4 and 4. Those columns, right? There's 2 columns of 4. 4 plus 4 equals 8. Here's that column 1. Here's that column 2. And then the total, or the sum, is 8. What about this one over here? You said 4 plus 4 equals 8. Where is your 4 and your 4? Your 4 and your 4 is your rows. Ooh, is there another equation we could write to match this array? What would we want? What could we say? Ooh, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. How do you find out how much that is? Oh, I just heard somebody saying 2. They said 2, 4, 6, 8, and they were pointing to this. 2, 4, 6, 8. You were skip counting. So then what does 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equal? It equals 8 as well. So we could skip count to find that by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8. What else could we do? That equals 4 and that equals 4. And we already know that 4 plus 4 equals 8. That makes a lot of sense to me. So we have our columns that can help us write these equations. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 4 plus 4. If we use our columns to help us write these equations, what would our equation be for this problem? Or this, not this problem, this array. What would our equation be for that array? What do you think? Put your thumbs in front of your tummies. Go ahead and share. Okay, so if this one had 4 and 4, and that made 8, then each column only has 1 up here. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Let me make sure I didn't lose track. Sometimes that precision is a little bit trickier the more add-ins we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if we have 8 ones that we're adding together, it equals 8. That's our total. Did we have 8 in each of our arrays? Were our arrays the same? No, there's more than one way to represent a group of tiles or a group of numbers, isn't there? And we can do that with an array. Now, let's go back to that definition of an array. I can build an array, you do that with your tiles, and represent it with an equation. So we built these 3 different arrays, and we have these equations that are matching our columns, don't we? Now, we could use our rows as well, but this time we used our columns to help us. They all equaled 8. This one only had 2 add-ins. This one had 4 add-ins. This one had 8 add-ins. Holy guacamole. Well, let's dive into our next problem and see if we can extend this learning. How's that sound? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story because I didn't leave enough room at the bottom. Okay, I'll just write down my details that I need to make sure I include. Listen very carefully. Turn those listening ears up. Good. Rob's team had a shelf for their hats. Okay, they had a shelf for their hats. You guys have hats that you wear? I'm not sure how my hat looks. Kind of rough, huh? They have 3 rows of hats. Okay, so I'm going to write that detail down. 3 rows of hats. And they have 4 hats in each row. So they have 3 rows of 4 hats. Just like this friend had 4 rows of 2, or 1 row of 8, or 2 rows of 4. This friend, Rob, had 3 rows of 4 hats in each row. We want to know how many hats did they have. And I want you all, again, what's our learning target? I can build an array. So I don't want you drawing it first. I want you to get out your tiles and I want you to show me those 3 rows of 4, okay? You may go ahead and begin. Remember what I want you to be thinking about while you're working, okay? How are you counting it? Are you building your rows first? Are you building 1 row? I want you to be thinking as you go, okay? So where is your first row of hats? And how many did you put in that row? I see you have 2 rows going. How many do you have so far? Okay, you have 8 so far. So if you add, how many more do you need to add to make that 3rd row? You need to add 4 more. So, I wonder how many you're going to have all together. Oh, I see your 3 rows. How many do you have in each row? 4? How do do you know how many you have in all together? Okay, so you have 4 and 4 is 8. And then what did you do after that? 9, 10, 11, 12. What equation are you writing to match this array? Let's come together in 5, 4. Remember, if you're not done, 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, friends, I'm going to use those tiles again. So I'm going to draw my squares to represent what I see out here in our friend's work. So what did you do first? Okay, and why did you draw one row of 4 first? We know that there's 4 in each row. So then what did you do? Okay, so then you drew another row. How many did you put in that row? 4 in that row too, because how many are in each row? 4, right? There's 3 rows of 4. This one had 4 rows of 2, so every row had 2. This one had 2 rows of 4, so both of them had 4. Are we done? No, because how many rows of hats did he have? He had 3 rows of hats. Can you show me where your 3 rows are with your fingers? Just show me as you're looking at your array on your paper, on your workspace in front of you, where are your 3 rows? Yes, row 1, row 2, and row 3. And how many are in each row? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Very nice. Now, how do we figure this out? The question was, how many hats do they have? What kind of an equation can we write to match this? 4 plus 4 plus 4. And why 4 plus 4 plus 4? Okay, so there's your 3 rows. 4, 4, and 4. And those of you who solved that, how did you figure that out? Okay, so you knew 4 plus 4 was 8, and then what? 9, 10, 11, 12. So you put together the combination you knew, and then you counted on after that to get to 12. You didn't write an equation that had 4s in them. What did your equation say? Can that equation match this work? Agree? Disagree? What do you all think? Where are those 3s in your work or in that array? 3, 3, 3, 3. Are we talking about those columns or the rows this time? Yes, we're talking about the columns. There's 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4 addends of 3 because there's 3 in each column. How did you figure out how many there were all together? 3 and 3 is 6, 3 and 3 is 6, and you know that 6 plus 6 is 12. Friends, kiss your brains. Is there just one way to write these equations to match our arrays? No. In fact, in your work today, you're going to be writing different combinations or different equations or number sentences to represent your arrays. And remember, your array is a set of objects that are arranged or organized in equal rows and columns. Now, exit ticket for you, my friends. We have 12 hats. I want you to show me another way you can arrange your tiles to show me another array of 12. Cannot wait to see the work that you do.